Once there was a TV show called Puckeen. And in this show, it was a kid's show. There was a box on a table, and Puckeen was supposedly in this box. And if you misbehaved, it was always threatened that Puckeen would come out of the box. But in all the years it was on TV, Puckeen never came out of the box. Or so they say. The book we're going to talk about today is Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. And I recently read The Burial Tide by Neil Sharpson, and I absolutely loved it. And so I was like, I need to read more about this author. So here we are. This one I think I liked even more. Okay, so let's discuss. You get two time frames in this. So first it follows the story of this girl, Etane. She lives with her mother, Mariette, and Mariette is kind of a horrible butthole. She sucks. She is mean and angry and treats her daughter terribly. And so anyways, they don't have a good relationship. She lives there. One day, her sister Kate calls her up, and Kate had escaped, and she kind of has lived all over the place and bounces around. And she's staying at their one relative's house and house sitting. And she's like, hey, I'm going to have a big party. I want you to come, you know. And Etane's like, how am I going to get there? I don't have a car. She's like, just take Mariette's car. And she's like, she'll never let me. And Kate's like, I didn't say ask her. I said just take it and then deal with it later. She's like, no, I'm not going to. I'm not coming to your party. And she's like, well, Barry's going to be here. And she's like, son of a biscuit. Because her and Barry were kind of in a relationship, and Etane was thinking about ending things. And she's like, you know what? I need to deal with this. I need to see Barry and figure it out. So Barry Mallon is going to be at the party. So Etane decides to go. And then when she gets there, she sees Barry. And they talk, and then he basically, like, proposes to her. She was going to break up with him, but she's like, yes. And then she's really excited about it, and she realizes, no, maybe I do actually love this guy. You know, that night they seal their love. He gives her a ring. It's a silver band with a blue sapphire, and on it there's, like, the shape of a woman combing her hair. He had seen it in a window of a jeweler's. He's like, I saw this, and I thought, you know, maybe, and he's like, I could see our future, this, that, and the other. She says yes. And then the next day she gets up to leave because she has to go to work. And she's out in like the Irish countryside too, because like the house that her sister is house sitting for is like kind of way out there. And Barry's like, oh, do you have to go? And she's like, yeah, I do. And so she gets up in the morning. She sees her sister Kate, and Kate is like, so, because Kate knew. And she's like, I said yes, da-da-da-da. And then she shows her the ring. The ring's kind of like super big, so she's going to have to get it resized and whatnot. And she's like, I got to go. I got to get to work. She leaves. Stuff gets kind of weird from there. She feels kind of like in a fugue or in a haze. She's driving and she's going down the road, and it almost seems like it's going to storm or whatever. And at some point, like a couple things, like two somethings run across the road. And then she sees like this little dog standing in the middle of the road. And then eventually she sees like it's chewing on something, and it seems like it's chewing on a dead body in the middle of the road. And for some reason, instead of like, you know, finding a phone to call the cops, because this takes place in 1979 is when this happens, she decides she's going to get out and go investigate. So she goes and she looks, and the dog's like trying to chew the thing's face off, and she's like, get out of here or whatever. And then she decides, oh, I can't just leave this body here. I'm going to pick it up and put it in my car. Why would you do that? But her brain's not right now. Something's going on there, right? What's new that's been added to our environment? I don't know, this new random ring? Anyway, so she gets the body and she chucks it in her car, and all of a sudden all these dogs and wolves come out everywhere and start attacking her car, and eventually she's able to get out of there. Then she drives, and it's almost like she's in a blackout or something weird, because instead of going to the cops, or in this they're called like the Garda, she ends up at this weird farmhouse, and she pretty much collapses when she gets there. But it seems like the people at the farmhouse have been expecting her. And then Etane disappears. Nobody knows where she is. The police basically try to blame it all on Barry for whatever reasons, even though there's literally no evidence. And the last person to talk to her and see her alive was her sister. But they completely spin it on the news and everything like, oh, it was Barry, the blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And there's one journalist, this Patricia Skelton. She ends up talking to the father of Barry, and Barry's dad's a really good guy, and she believes that Barry did not do this. And he's like, especially since Kate was the last person she talked to and saw her alive, you know? And Barry was still there. Like, there were witnesses that he was there. So it doesn't seem like a very rational thing. Why are the Garda blaming him? So she disappears. And then eventually she is found. And then you fast forward, and then we're in another story where we have these two other characters. We have Betty, and Betty is going to college, and she's joining all these different like social groups and whatnot. And then she meets this girl whose name is Aisling. Aisling Mallon. Wow. Barry Mallon, right? So it's Barry Mallon's daughter. So we have like a weird connection here. And so then you start to find out what had happened to Etain after all the trauma and stuff that went on with her. And then how Aisling's relationship was with her and her dad. And there's her sister when they were kids. Her sister Neve ended up going missing. And it was weird because they had gone on this school trip and they had gone to like where the Puckeen show was filmed. And there was like a weird interaction there. After that, her sister disappeared. And all these years, they don't know what happened to her. They never found a body, nothing. And so that really affected the family. It messed up the mother. The mother was always angry at Aisling. So Aisling's like, has had a lot of family trauma, and she has a hard time forming relationships with people or even like having a relationship with anyone. So when her and Betty meet, it takes a while before they kind of click, before she even lets her in and, you know, lets her know about herself. But when Betty meets her, she ends up joining the drama society because Aisling kind of like, in a roundabout way, even though she told her she shouldn't join because it's a cult and this, that, and the other, she ends up joining, right? And then she gets to know Aisling, and Aisling wants to, as a career, get into like children's television production, which she's like, oh, that's kind of weird. I wonder why. And because this whole thing with like her sister going missing, what had happened to her mother all those years ago, what is this TV show? And then stuff gets like really weird, and you start to encounter other people that have like these rings that are the same ring that Etain had. And what does that have to do with anything? Are there these weird secret societies that are happening? So there's a lot of like different elements and weird stuff going on in this book. Okay, so that's like the basic like premise of it. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but it really pulled me in. I would also call it like a horror romance. It is captivating. It's weird. It's a page turner. Like the story is, I couldn't put it down. It was so good. I am thinking that Neil Sharpson is going to be a must-read author for me because these past two books are amazing. I can't wait to see what he does in the future. If you haven't read Neil Sharpson and you like horror and you like stuff that's weird with like Irish lore and different strange things, I liked the characters. It was disturbing. It was layered. And the flips between the time frames, because it's like 1979 and then like 1999. So you have about 20 years apart. So then you get like the story of like the daughter. It wasn't confusing at all. I was able to keep all that straight between the different characters and whatnot and the flips back and forth. And overall, just really atmospheric, very captivating, and an excellent horror read. If any of that sounds good, I would say check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.